Delighted to be here on this interview today. Happy to have Father Gardimo, Rector and Priest at St. Thomas the Apostle Episcopal Church in Overland Park, Kansas. My name is Daryl Prater, and I'm one of the consultants, longtime consultants with church development. And it's been my privilege to be a part of Father Gar's church in two capital campaigns, two feasibility studies. And so I'm going to ask Father Gar if he would talk about the first capital campaign. It's been a few years ago, and some of the positive things and keys to success in that first capital campaign.
Sure. My name is Gardimo. I'm the priest at St. Thomas Episcopal Church in Overland Park, Kansas. I've been the rector here for the last 13 years. We started our process to do a capital campaign just a little bit prior to my starting at the church. They had gone through their own self-discernment and really wanted to do some things. They didn't have any solid conceptualization yet, but there was certainly a lot of desire to do something. When I got here, they wanted to start right away. I put the brakes on to wait a little bit till I got to know the church and they got to know me. And about my fourth year of leadership, we engaged with church development to come and help us do a feasibility study. And during that time, while we had done some self-study again, we engaged with church development. They did a full discernment piece for us. We worked with architects. We worked with in our community to discern what was the next steps for us. And I think Daryl was with us from the beginning. That was a huge partnership for us. One of the things that helped me the most was having Daryl, because he was the non-anxious outsider coming in that helped us decide, kind of know the questions to ask. He knew, the anxieties that would come up, and was able to be with us every step of the way, from early discernment through feasibility study to all of the different things that needed to happen for us to get pretty clear about our capital campaign.
I remember, Father Gar, that one of the really wise decisions early on with St. Thomas is, I believe that they decided to go with 50 personal interviews in that first capital campaign. I remember we interviewed for several weeks, and that was really kind of like an X-ray before surgery. It really showed exactly what we were looking at and the support of the people. Any comments on that part?
Yeah, during that process, you and I worked along with the rector, the senior warden and junior warden, and some others to identify both our potential top givers, but also to identify all the key leaders in the church, even those that maybe weren't as supportive of the idea of a capital campaign. So we didn't stack the decks one way or the other. And it led us, I think people appreciated having a chance to interview. And I think, the last 10 senior wardens, plus the people we thought would give, plus just the really, the people who were in key stakeholders for the community got interviewed with you. And again, you were the outsider, so there was they could say anything they wanted to you without consequence. So there wasn't like, I was going to hold it against them because they weren't in favor of the project, or somebody else did, I think it really helped us identify and clarify our issues. And we had to go back and rework. After our process was finished, we had to rework some of our goals, because some of what the church was setting as a priority was not what we imagined. And so there was a lot of work to kind of reorient some of the goals that we had.
So the church did a first capital campaign several years ago, 7 or 8 years ago, I believe. And then more recently, in the past 3 to 4 years, I believe there was a second capital campaign. And that one had a different focus. You'd already had the parish hall built. Do you care to comment on that capital campaign and what was positive about it?
Sure. The first capital campaign was really for the building effort. And so it was the first one this church had done in over 2 decades. And we initially thought we were going to raise about $1 million. We ended up raising $1.6 million. After the parish hall was finished, we ran into some unanticipated challenges. A couple of things that hit us. We had a little bit of a financial dip. Part of it was coming off of the capital campaign and not having anticipated as clearly as we needed to the anticipated expenses, new expenses within the larger building. And the second piece was, this is a church that doesn't have an endowment, and it's growing. We had not only done a capital campaign, we'd also staffed up for growth considerably. And so we had to do some catch up, and we wanted to make sure the church was in good long-term financial position. So there was three things that we tried to accomplish with that second capital campaign. One was we wanted to build up a reserve fund, and the second piece was to finish up some projects like a parking lot, and also some work that we needed to do on the older part of the building. So there was really sort of a three-pronged approach to that capital campaign. We didn't raise as much money, but we also didn't anticipate that. But we did raise a considerable amount. Almost everybody who gave to the first campaign, I'd say probably 80% gave to the second campaign. And we ended up, I think our commitments at the end of that campaign were right at $700,000, and we collected right at $650,000. We still have a few gifts that are still coming in. We're not quite done with that. We're just almost finished, but we still have a few more gifts that we anticipate coming in. So we're really two really successful campaigns. One with a clear project, the other more just making sure the financial position of the church was well laid, and also finishing up some things we couldn't complete before.
Okay. One thing we've noticed, Father Gar, through the years is that rectors, priests, there is a certain natural amount of anxiety in going through a first capital campaign. And so I wondered, could we put you on the spot and ask you if you have any words of wisdom for those pastors, those priests who are considering doing a capital campaign, and kind of a word to the wise as someone who's rather a veteran going through several capital campaigns, sure, such as you are.
This last one was my fourth capital campaign in my career. The first one that we did here at St. Thomas was the largest of the ones that I participated in. I think I was certainly anxious because you don't know how people are going to respond, and there's so much work to the process. And so I think the best thing looking back, the thing that I know is it is a process, and that you've got to go through periods where people are going to give pushback, and you've got to take the negative feedback and the positive feedback and let people process that internally and within the community and listen to what the community is saying. I think that some of the best things we did is we kept them constantly updated about what we were deciding. We had I think we had 3 or 4 all congregation meetings to update them on the projects. And it ended up almost everybody in the beginning that said they weren't going to support it ended up coming around. I don't think we had, by the time the campaigns were finished, we had a large, 95% support from the congregation. We didn't start that way, and it took us going through the process. And I think just being willing to hear people say stuff like, well, I don't think we need anything, or this is nuts, I don't have any money. And not letting that knock the whole campaign off. And we had some big surprise gifts that people didn't know could possibly be there, and gifts that were going to come from people who've been part of the church for a long time. One person had even been saving money for the time that this was going to happen, and we didn't know that was coming, or we didn't know that they had done that. So there's just lots of surprises that kind of come along the way. I think in the end, it was so energizing for our church, and we've had consistent growth through this whole process. It wasn't without stress. We had our neighbors threw a fit about our building project, tried to stop us at the city council. That's ended up turning into really positive things for us. We worked and related and invited the neighbors that we have immediately around us to lots of meetings, worked with them, put some extra trees in, different stuff like that to kind of help them support that. We've also opened our building up to both of the neighborhood groups. So they meet here, they use our parish hall on a regular basis. And we kind of made that commitment during that time. We're like, this isn't just for us, it's also for you. They've had a couple of neighborhood parties here. It's really helped us to reach out above and beyond. So those are all things that came up in the process. It could have gone really poorly, but we just kept the doors open and were willing to kind of go through and listen, even to people who didn't have a monetary stake in our campaign, just trying to make sure what we were doing were good stewards, both of our neighborhood and also of our property.
Well, Father Gar, it's really a privilege for church development to be able to partner with St. Thomas. St. Thomas is, as you know, a very healthy parish and has a lot going for it. The new parish hall has really added a significant presence to Antioch, one of the main roads in Johnson County in the Overland Park area. So thank you for sharing a few words with us, and we look forward to our continued relationship through the years and hearing great things from St. Thomas. Appreciate your time.
You bet. We're happy to, church development was a great partner for us, so can't say enough good things about y'all.